Okay, so what I'm going to do today is the DX6 Spectrum controller. It had a bad switch, a bad toggle switch right here, which was all wobbly, and then it has another one right here, which the remote was dropped and it's broken. I've already taken it out, but the leads are still in there. So what I'm going to do is, you see this one? I have replaced a replacement switch, or I've purchased replacement switches. However, the threads are not the same as the dress nuts that are already on the controller. So I'm going to replace the actual outer covering for the threads for the old one and put it on my new switch with a working switch, and I'll show you how to do it, and we'll solder it and go through that process. So what I would do is, if you have the box or the old box, use it, and then once you turn it over here, you'll have bolt or screw, 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 and you have to take those off in order to get to everything else. So you could, if you wanted to, disconnect everything. I'm going to try not to, because I actually don't want to do that and have to put it back on, and it's just a big pain in the neck. But so we have this switch right here. It's soldered on by 2 leads. And then you have the other one. This is the other one that's completely obliterated. I just took it off and put some tape on it so it wouldn't connect while it was in the controller and I was still using it. Okay, so when I took off this piece right here, all the pieces from the internal switch fell off. So right here is the actual toggle itself. It was kind of just wobbling around. It wasn't an up, down. So I'll leave links down below as far as what I got with this one, and then where I got the other ones. Now keep in mind that, like I said, the thread, it's one. I'll leave it in the notes below. But what you actually want is, you want an M6 0.75 pitch thread. That will match up to these directly, and then you can use the same dress nuts. However, it was very hard to source that, so you might be able to find it with the Fly Sky controllers, because they have a lot of those replacement switches. I'm not sure of the thread pitch of those, or if it's metric or imperial or what. So I can't say that that's the one to replace it with. But these I got from DigiKey, and like I said, I'll leave the links below. Okay, moving. So what you want to do in order to get this metal piece off of here, we're going to be very careful in assembling it. And so we'll put this all aside for now. And now we're just going to try to go as close as we can. Whoop, whoop. Okay, right here. Let's see if we can go a little bit closer. Okay. Wow, that is close. We'll go a little bit wider because there. Okay. So there's 4 little bent over pieces of metal right here. Right here. That we have to take off, and we have to kind of split this apart. Now, because it's a good working switch, we want to be very careful when we actually do remove it to not mess up the internal workings of this, and you also don't want to damage the plastic case right here, because you will. It's very sorry about the camera here. Okay, so you see it's starting to separate. I just want to kind of pull it apart a little bit. And then I want to go to a bigger screwdriver. It's going to make it a lot easier and give it a lot more surface area to work with, if I can. See, it's starting to separate or pull off of the red case, and I don't actually want to do that just yet. that might be enough. So what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to try to push down on the top here and then pull. So I'm going to push down on the table, whoop, whoop, and then separate it. It's not enough. You just have to be very careful how you do it. You can do it however you can do it, but you want to make sure you're as careful as you can be, because you don't want to ruin the good switch. Okay, it's trying to separate already. So now go ahead and pull this straight out. Okay, so if you look in here, so it's like a little, I don't know if you can see it, it's a little rocker. So you have this plastic piece right there, and then when you go back and forth it kind of pushes, it makes a connection, takes the connection off the other one. This is an on-on switch, so if it goes this way, it's on. Well, we'll talk about the switch more, but just keep this in mind. If it goes this way, it turns one side on. It goes this way, it turns the other side on. So now, we'll go ahead and take our old one. That's this one. This is the one with our correct thread. And we'll just double check to make sure. Sure this is the right dress nut. Okay, perfect. So that's the right one. Now we'll drop this in. Again, we're just being careful. We don't want to mess it up. Where are we at here? So I'm going to start to push this in place. Okay, now let's see if we can get one hooked on. Okay, I want to kind of we are going to really say on, okay. Now, let's see about, okay, squeeze it, and we're just kind of gonna. Okay, but now I have, it's clean, it's good, it's not all busted up. And what you could do, which I didn't do here, is you could actually see if you could bend these straight. I didn't want to bend these little tabs because I don't want to risk busting them off. And then you could really squeeze it when it's off and then slide it on and then bend it over the way they did in the factory when it was originally made. But okay, so now you have our switches back together and now it'll go right into place. So understanding the way the switch works. So this one, right, has like a little teeter-totter on the inside. Right now it pushes the teeter-totter this way, making a connection between these two leads. Let's see, use this. So this is going to be the negative, and then this is going to be the other color. In this, all the black wires in the controller, all the black wires are in this middle lead. So this is going to always be connected, and then this is going to trigger something. So being an on-on, if you had an on-off switch, it would mean, say that's our on switch. When we turn it this way, it won't do anything. It'll just be on or off. In this case, with this switch, you have the choice to make it on with these two leads, these two, or you can trigger something else with these two. So that's the way the switch works. So okay, now we'll see about soldering it. Okay, now first we'll have to unsolder the one that we already have, and you can do this with any switch that you have. Okay. Now here's the soldering iron right here. Let's see. Okay. I want this to kind of be out of my way. And then I also have a wet napkin here. And this kind of keeps it cool so it doesn't get too hot and destroy other electronics. Wouldn't matter for this application necessarily. I mean, you don't want it to be crazy hot because you don't want to melt plastic and things like that, which will ultimately happen if you're not careful. So this is flux, and then this is our solder. So what you'll want to do when you do solder it on is you'll want to make sure that you put flux on the connectors that you're actually going to solder, because once it hits hot, it's going to really help it adhere together. What we will do is get some
garage door.
Sorry, I wasn't planning on doing that, but we'll just cut off these leads since we have ample wire, and I'll just save us time here. Okay, that switch is removed. Now we're gonna peel back some of the insulation, just enough to be able to wrap it around the solder lugs on the switch. Okay. This one. Okay. There we go. So I can kind of see just how much wire I have, or how much wire I've taken off of that. And now I'm going to go ahead and twist these into the lugs of the switch. Okay. And now, I just want to make sure they're not going to bridge. It's not high enough voltage to arc or anything crazy like that. But I just want to make sure that when I do solder, it's going to be a nice, firm, solid connection. Okay. Okay, so we'll make sure there's just a little bit on here. If you put too much on there, it's just going to make it a pain later because you'll have to clean it up. So a little bit of solder. just enough on there to really sit it down good. I don't really care to go through the eyelet like that, but for the sake of this, I'm gonna do it. The more flux you end up putting on it, the more mess you'll have to clean up after. So use it as sparingly as you can, as you need to. Okay, now try not to breathe in the smoke because it's going to be very bad for you. Okay, and I will. So there it is. Let's see if we can get it. Here, we'll do this way. Okay. So there it is, and they're both soldered on tight. Not going to have a whole lot of movement just because it's not that. And now you just need to remember. So now we'll just put this on the on, with it in the on position, so we can make sure to rotate it once we get it in there. So we'll set this in here for now. Okay, so we want to rotate this because right now it's in the 0 position, or the O position, and we want it to be in the on position. So there's that. Now, let's go ahead and put our dress nut on it. Let's get this out. Okay. Now, let's see. Let's go a little bit wider. Okay. And now it's just a matter of getting this kind of lined up. Then I'm going to tighten this up. Use a screwdriver. Thanks. Got that screwdriver. Okay, now we'll just kind of turn it and make sure that the switch does not turn. Working it, working it. Okay. So now we could put this back on, and the other one would be soldered the exact same way, but I don't have the right switch. But that's the new switch, nice and tight, just the way we need it, and there it is. So I hope this was helpful.